Welcome to Business Success Tips. We're going to learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source. We help contractors build great teams. My guest today is 𝗂𝗍𝗍𝗶𝗍. Hope I got that right, from Home Services Coaching Pros. So what do you guys do? I assume your title says it all, but go for it.
Yeah, we wanted to leave no confusion with the name. Coach.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah. Goal is to go in and work with those home service companies, really kind of eliminate the chaos, find the constraints and the problems and overcome those. You know, for most home service owners, the biggest challenge is moving from technician thinking to CEO level thinking.
Right. Now, that's a huge issue. How do you change? I've been a coach forever. My hardest problem was how I converted somebody from a craftsman to an entrepreneur. How do you pull that off? It's a tough transition.
It is huge. And I actually was just having a conversation with an owner. He's ran his business for 25 years this morning. And that's the very place he finds himself in. He's like, man, I'm good at installing air conditioners. He's like, running a business is completely different. And it is. And it's recognizing that, I think, is the first step. But that's where I think a lot of personal development programs and things kind of go wrong, is they try to just install systems templates, a one size fits all approach. And you have to really work on the owner, not on the business. And that's the big key.
How do you get the owner, to change that mindset? One mindset is if you're a hammer, everything's a nail, right? So the project thing, everybody has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you take that project mentality and you try to run a business with it. And it doesn't work that well, right?
Yeah. You have to learning to really step back and be strategic. So the way you do that, it's called, I don't want to oversimplify it because it's complex, but it's the coaching process. It's the process of having a clear goal in mind, and then the coach asking those open, explorative questions that really gets the business owner to think about something probably for the first time. And when they come to that, like, I can tell you what to do, but until you come to that ownership conclusion yourself of, oh, I need to go do this, you're probably not going to go do it, or certainly not well, quite frankly.
Now, my coaching issues, I had issues sometimes because this person's hiring you, right? And they're paying you money.
Yep.
And they're paying you money, and you're going to tell them what they're doing wrong. It's like when you get a coach on a team, he can get rid of you. Like, you're not paying the coach, right? But in this system, he's paying you, so you can't upset him so much he'll fire you. But at the same time, you got to let him know what he or she needs to do to shift. That's a delicate line, isn't it?
Yeah, it starts with permission. I quite frankly, at the onset, say, hey, do I have your permission to coach you? And to be very frank with you. And then when you're about to deliver the really hard ones, Paul, that could get you fired, you remind them they gave you permission to be honest, and say, look, I'm not here to hurt you, to slam you. I'm here to help you. And I think when you approach it with that spirit, so far, every business owner's been, hey, hit me with the hard truth. I'd rather you hurt my feelings and my business grows, quite frankly.
Right. So when you're giving them, one of the hardest ones I had, and maybe tell me how you get through it, is if a business has a problem, it's all you, right? It could be a marketing problem. It could be a personnel problem. It could be a profitability problem. You go, the bottom line is you are the problem, and you're going to have to change this behavior in order to make things happen. How do you pull that off?
I think part of it, there's some tactical approaches to it, right? Like we can stop the bleeding when it comes to marketing or sales or whatever, but then help them recognize that what got you here won't get you there. So if you continue to think the same way, we can stop the bleeding, but that's just the Band-Aid. We're not actually healing the wound. It's going to come back. And quite frankly, next time it might come back worse.
Right. So how do you get them to accept 100% responsibility for what's going on in their business?
Reminding, again, those questions are really important. And it's saying, hey, what is it that got you to where you're at? Okay, where do you want to go? Remind them of the goal, and then help them recognize, as the owner, like, you can install the system, you can build the tool, you can hire the marketing professional, whatever that looks like. At the end of the day, you have to continue to drive this process. I'll get in the trenches and I'll work with you, but it's you, and the buck stops with you. Your name's the one on the company. You've got the equity. You've got the hopefully the bigger paycheck, even though unfortunately, some owners are,
Fortunately, no, sometimes that's not even true, right?
no, they're not paying themselves at all, or if they are, they're getting the scraps that are left over.
Right. So, how do you teach a craftsman to be a leader?
I call it the transformation equation, Paul. It starts with awareness, and that's hey, help them identify blind spots, help them recognize the weaknesses. And once they admit that, that's great. Now I can give them some information because you need some training. If you just are ignorant
Mhm.
of something, reading a book, listening to a podcast, it's all good stuff. But that's the information piece. It's such a small sliver. You need to add implementation. So if you learn something, read a chapter of a book, learn a marketing tactic, learn a leadership skill like how to delegate. Great, go do it, go practice it, implement. You may suck at it at first. You're going to fail maybe. Let's go back, let's talk about it. Let's learn something new, re-implement, and it's that cycle of learning and action. You got to learn something, you got to take
So,
action.
how one of the how do you enforce accountability? Because like how do you get in shape? You exercise and eat less. What's the problem, right? We have a fat country because they know what to do, but they don't do it. So
Yeah,
the question is, how do you get I mean, I do coaching like, did you call those three architects or did you read that book? Have you implemented whatever how do you get them to be accountable for the stuff they're supposed to do?
I go back to the coaching process. So when they don't, because it's not if, it's when they don't do something they
Right.
said they were going to do, I ask the question, what do you suppose got in the way of you doing what you said you were going to do? You said you were going to make those 3 phone calls, Paul. What got in the way of that? They will do some internal exploration. They'll come up with some answers, and then we continue the question process. And that hopefully almost all the time it does. Sometimes it takes longer than others. That raises their awareness and they come to that realization. The key is you can't install accountability until you build the right foundation. You have to build a good foundation of structure, systems, and clarity to then have accountability.
So what does structure, systems, and clarity look like in the businesses you work with?
A lot of times it starts with financial clarity. Most business owners I've worked with, almost every single one of them, they have a P&L. They don't really know how to dig into that P&L.
Right.
Their their accountant delivers the product, the bookkeeper delivers the product, but doesn't go into strategy and talking through it. So you ask some questions, you ask, find out what some of the challenges are, and then you have to build that discipline. And a lot of times it looks like a scorecard. It's not to oversimplify this, but just being able to really read and ask questions from a
So,
P&L and install
let's
a
say
scorecard.
on making your phone calls, you got a 5 out of a 10 because you only made one phone call. How do we get it to a 10, right?
Yep. And then they'll come up with an answer. How do I get it to a 10? How will I know you did this? How committed are you to doing this? And it's that practice repeated. And they will almost every single time, if they're coachable, and herein lies the challenge, if they're coachable, they will eventually raise that awareness and they will start behaving in a different way.
So, how do you know if somebody's coachable or not?
Sometimes it'll happen in the intake session. You ask some questions, you tell them, hey, this is going to be the hardest process you've ever undergone. You're trying to shift your thinking from this technician thinking to CEO thinking. It's going to be a hard process. So you can gauge commitment usually right there. And if the pain isn't enough for them to know they need to make that change, you can identify that. But then it becomes the engagement. Case in point, I had a client, a business partnership. One partner was very engaged with me and he was booking the meetings, he was doing the work, he was coming up with ideas. The other partner was slow to respond to emails, had a lot of reschedules, no shows, things like that. It was a matter of knowing this partnership, like these guys are going to struggle, and this client is not going to last. And sure enough, um, he didn't.
Right. So, when you're vetting, I mean, people listening to this podcast, how do they know if they're a good client for you? What makes them coachable in your brain?
Are they dissatisfied with where they're at today? If there's a clear dissatisfaction saying, I know I need something I don't have today, I can go read a book and find out some of that stuff, but I don't have somebody that's going to get in the trench with me and work through it. That's a good sign. And then, again, there's best practice groups. There's a lot of different things out there that you can go get information and support from. Most of them are good and worthwhile. If you're looking for that implementation partner, that person that's really going to challenge you and help you elevate your thinking to the next level, that's a good fit for me.
So what I've seen is when I was coaching, AI wasn't around, right? So you can start off now information is basically free. You can go and say, I have this business, this is my circumstance, what do I need to do? And it'll outline a step by step, do this and do that, right? If you want to get in shape, if you want to make money, AI is really good at information. It's
Yep.
better than we've ever seen. Implementation, it sucks. It's like, I mean, it can tell you this is how many reps you should do. This is, if you want to lose weight, this is what you should eat, calorie intake. If you want to start a business, here's a marketing plan, here's an HR plan, blah, blah, blah. But doing it is entirely different than knowing about it.
Yep. I, my advice to remind every business owner out there is everywhere you go, there you are. So information, we all know how to have six-pack abs and be billionaires, and yet here we all are.
Right.
The information is there. Somebody that will help you implement, execute, and get the transformation you want. And quite frankly, the awareness, right? That first piece of the transformation equation is the awareness. Somebody that'll help you raise your awareness is
Now,
those are
what I've noticed in coaching, that's why I want you to talk. Getting a coach is sort of like getting a wife. I mean, you've got to like each other, you have to respect each other, you've got to listen, both got to be willing to give and take, and it's a sort of a special relationship. And unless you have that relationship, my sense is the coach won't work.
100%. You're absolutely right. And I'm not the coach for everybody, right? That you've got to have a fit. And then if you're going to hire a coach, you have to interview them. You have to ask them tough questions. You want to make sure if you're going to hire an A player on your team, you don't just go find the person, find out if they can fog a mirror or, they've got a cool website or they've got a big guru group or whatever. You got to ask some tough questions. And I actually wrote a blog article on the questions you should ask before
What are
hiring a
some of the
coach.
questions you need to ask? It'd be interesting to hear these pieces.
Yeah, the first one is what's your approach to coaching? That'll tell you if there's a fit right there. Because if somebody's approach is I ask really tough questions, I'm going to challenge your thinking, and you don't want that, that's a disqualifier. Another one would be who's your coach? Because quite frankly, why would you hire somebody who's not out there actively improving themselves? You're not going to go find a heart surgeon who's not actively getting better at heart surgery and is just sitting around drinking beer all day. So you
Mhm.
want to ask some of those questions. I think another really good question is what do you do when your client is resistant to making progress? Because each of us will be resistant at some point in time. Asking a coach their approach to that is a really good question to help qualify are they the right fit? And then asking their process, quite frankly, is another really important one. You want to get a good feeling for how do you take me from point A to point B? And everybody's going to have a different process, a different approach. That will help you identify, does this sound like the right fit for me to move
Well, I
in the
think
direction?
when I was in coaching, I said, I'm working a lot for my intuition and I'm in the moment and present. If you
Yep.
don't want an intuitive person, I'm the wrong guy because you can read all the books you want to, but I work from that's my personal system is being intuitive. Other people work from structure, they work from plans, they work from systems. So I think you got to buy into whatever that coach's style is.
That's a great point, Paul. And in true professional coaching, that intuition plays in there. Even if you have a process and a system, the intuition has to come into play because you're going to recognize thought patterns, behavior patterns, or things that,
Well, I noticed that every time I had an agenda, I never followed it. Like, I would say, "Here's our marketing agenda," and they go, "My wife's going to leave me," or something, something like, "Okay."
yeah, yeah, directionally, the like, hey, here's your primary focus. That'll directionally get us moving in the right path, but there's the triage that comes up in the interim. I ran a marketing campaign and I lost $20,000 of budget. It didn't do what I needed it to do. All right, let's go figure that part out. Not
Right.
necessarily what we were working towards. Yeah.
And so, do you do the coaching? Have coaches that work for you? What's your methodology?
I do all delivery. So there's a couple things I say would kind of differentiate me. One, I'm not out there trying to build the biggest team and do serve the masses. I'm for a very, finite group of people, so you get one-on-one attention. In 2026, I'm going to be launching some group offerings for those entrepreneurs, business owners that are maybe just starting out a little bit newer on the journey. But for those that are in that, anywhere from $1 to $10 million range, you probably need some of that one-on-one support to really grow and get where you need to go. So I'm providing that one-on-one support right now, and I do all the delivery on that.
And how do you charge for what you do?
We install something called the Profit Accelerator operating system, and so that's got several different components to it that really helps identify what's the charge. And I like to remind people, we do it on a monthly basis. So, I don't lock people into a 12-month contract. I say, look, to get results, 6 to 12 months is probably what it's going to take, but we operate on a month-to-month basis. And I tell everybody, I'm going to guarantee your return on investments. We don't do money back guarantees. That's lame and great. You're going to give me my money back, but now my business is worse off than it was before I started working with you.
Right.
That's not the way to do it. We give an ROI guarantee. We are going to get you an ROI on your investment in net profit. Revenue for vanity, profit for sanity. We want to drive that net profit.
That's assuming they understand what their net profit is, right?
Well, in the diagnostics, we get clear on that. If they can't provide a P&L, like if I don't know what the starting point is, I can't help them. So we got to get clear on the starting point.
Okay. And who's your ideal client? I'm listening to this. Who would be your ideal client?
Ideal client is going to be those home service owners that are in that $2 to $5 million range. They probably have some pretty good revenue. They know how to sell. They've hired some people. They've got some trucks. They are out there doing the work, doing the services, but they maybe don't really know how to build a financial strategy. They maybe haven't built a budget before. They're not super clear on sales and marketing if they're getting a good ROI on that stuff. And they're hungry to grow. They want to build something. They know they need to change in order to get there. As far as industries, Paul, it's interesting. HVAC, roofing, cleaning companies have been some of my best clients. Those are owners that are typically pretty hungry to grow. And roofing is an industry, it's so ripe to be disrupted. Finding those hungry owners, that's a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to advise you before you choose a coach, interview several, like dating, right?
Yep.
Don't go with the one you like the best. Go with the one you would intuitively feel is going to produce the most results. Because even if you're good buddies and nothing happens, that's not worthwhile. If you hate the person, that's not going to work because you're never going to listen to them. So it's there's thing where you, in your gut, this person could really make a difference in my life. And to me, if you feel that, that's the person you should hire.
Absolutely. And, never look at coaching as an expense. Look at it as an investment and
Right.
challenge your coach. Expect a return on that investment.
And my experience is the ROI can be amazing. It can be 50 to 1. It's crazy numbers, right? Because,
I'll tell you, I'm going to help you at least turn nickels into quarters, if not dimes into dollars.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. And so your fees depend on the company. So they need to call you to figure out what you can do, how you can do it, what's going to cost them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I could give, people ask, oh, how much is this going to cost? That's the most popular question.
Somewhere between $1,000 and $10,000 a month, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how much support do you want? Am I going to be helping you, build out your processes? Am I helping you hold your marketing person accountable? Am I building financial strategy? Depending on how involved we get, it goes from there.
Okay, cool. So if people want to get a hold of you, Peter, how do they do that?
You can find me on Facebook, Home Service Coaching Pros, or Pete Leckemby. That is where I tend to connect with a lot of home service owners there. Also, homeservicecoachingpros.com. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on Google and just give a call to the office.
Great. Well, my suggestion is if you found Peter like he's speaking to your heart or your head or something in between, I would definitely give him a call because if you don't have a coach, you probably need one. Would you agree?
Yeah, everybody needs a coach. I would agree with that.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Really appreciate being here. This has got a lot of insight. Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure, Paul. Thank you.